Hi boys and girls, welcome to your next video on solving multi-step equations where you have variables on both sides of the equal sign. What we're going to do is take a look at a couple examples and then we'll fill out your graphic organizer. Okay, with variables on both sides of the equal sign, as you can notice, I have a 6x on one side and a 2x on the other side. This is different than your previous equations because typically we would only see our variable on either side of the equation. In order to solve for the variable, what I typically have students do is bring the variable over to one side of the equal sign so that it's a little bit easier to solve. So your main objective is to get all of your x values, or whatever your variable might be, to one side of the equal sign. In this case here, in order to bring 2x to this side of the equal sign, we have to apply equation concepts. The inverse operation of positive 2x is negative 2x. So I'm going to subtract negative 2x from both sides of my equation. Going back to equations, what you do to one side, you must do to the other side by applying inverse operations. So when I do so, my 2x cancel out, and I'm just left with 21 on this side of my equation. 6x minus 2x gives me 4x. And I can bring down my plus 5. At this point here, I can apply my knowledge of two-step equations to solve for the variable. So now I can subtract 5 from both sides. So I'm left with 4x equals 16. Then I can divide by 4 in order to solve for my variable. And x is equal to 4. Let's look at two more examples. Again, I have variables on both sides of my equal sign, and I'm going to apply inverse operations to solve for my variable. I'm going to bring negative 3x to this side of the equation by applying inverse operations. The opposite of negative 3x is adding 3x to both sides. When I do so, these cancel, and I'm left with negative 13 on this side of my equation. 6x plus 3x gives me 9x. Bring down my 5 plus 9x. Now I can apply two-step equation concepts. Subtract 5. Subtract 5. Negative 13 minus 5. You can use your calculator to check. Gives me negative 18. I'm going to bring down my 9x. Divide both sides by 9 in order to solve for my variable. So x is equal to negative 18 divided by 9, which is negative 2. Let's look at one more example. Now this looks a little crazy to you, but we're going to kind of break it down by all of our multi-step equation concepts. So again, on both sides, I'm going to apply distributive property first. And I'm going to treat each side as its own equation. 4 times y is 4y. 4 times negative 2 is minus 8. 6 times y is 6y. 6 times 3 is plus 18. Again, I'm going to bring my y variable to the other side of the equation by applying inverse operations. So I'm going to subtract 6y, subtract 6y, and again, you can use your calculators for this computation. 4 minus 6 is negative 2y minus 8, which is equal to 18. Now I'm going to apply my two-step equation concepts. I'm going to add 8 to both sides. By doing so, my 8's cancel out, so I'm left with negative 2y is equal to 26. And when I divide both sides by negative 2, it comes out to y equals negative 13. So even though we have distributive property on both sides, you can still apply those concepts and then apply your knowledge from this video to solve for the variable on both sides of the equation. All right, let's look at your graphic organizer. So what I have listed here is apply any distributive property and like terms if applicable. So I didn't include an equation where I put in combining like terms or any distributive property, but that's your first step in any equation. Our next step is to get all of your variables to one side. In this case, I'm going to bring 2x to the other side of my equal sign by applying inverse operations. The opposite of positive 2x is negative 2x. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. When I do so, 7x minus 2x is 5x. Minus 2 is equal to negative 48. Now I'm going to do the inverse of any adding or subtracting. The opposite of subtracting 2 is adding 2. So I'm left with 5x is equal to negative 48 plus 2 is negative 46. Then my last step is I'm going to do the inverse of any multiplication or division. The inverse of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5, which I know is already going to give me a decimal. So at this point, you can use your calculator to double check. Negative 46 divided by 5 gives me negative 9.2. And what this is saying is if I go back into my original equation and do 7 times negative 9.2 minus 2, and negative 48 plus 2 times negative 9.2, both sides will be equal to each other. All right, if you have any questions, please make sure you bring those to class tomorrow, and we will do a couple more practice problems very similar to this. All right, have a great night.